All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to see all of you here. Thanks for coming, even though we're having miserable weather today. It always happens like this. But that's all right. If we're here, it means we're really dedicated. And it's my great pleasure to acknowledge the Cultural Month, Algerian Cultural Month, which is being sponsored by the Algerian-American Association of Greater Washington and the support of the Embassy of Algeria. And I also want to extend a special welcome to the members of the Algerian Embassy who are with us today. Unfortunately, the ambassador is not feeling well, so he will not be with us, but we convey to him our best wishes for a speedy recovery. I'm Osama Abi-Mershed. I'm the director of the Center of Contemporary Arab Studies, and it's my great pleasure to be able to host an Algerian event. I personally can't get enough Algerian events, so hopefully this is only the start of more to come. Our panel today is rather mixed, so we've chosen the title of Algerian Motifs to give you kind of a sample of different kind of interests in Algeria. And I'm very delighted to welcome two luminaries and scholars from Algeria, and I'll introduce them right away so that we can then just proceed with the presentations. Each panelist will speak for about 20 minutes, and then we thought we'll just hang on or hold off on Q&A until the very end so that we can ask all the questions at once. So first I would like to introduce Nour Houda Amri, who completed her master's degree with honors in applied linguistics from the University of Constantine, Algeria. Her graduate work in sociolinguistics centered on the contribution of young adults in the innovation of new words borrowed from French and integrated into the Algerian dialect. She's currently preparing for doctoral studies in computational linguistics, and her presentation today will encompass the evolution of the evolution and the linguistic change in the Algerian dialectic Arabic, the causes for which are accelerating, the causes which are contributing to the acceleration of this phenomenon. She'll focus primarily on factors like the media, in addition to other cultural and social factors. And our second speaker will be Fadéla Mrabit, and she's a leading Algerian feminist and author of several works on the status of Algerian women. She holds a doctorate in biology and has practiced medicine as associate professor at Broussais Hôtel-Dieu in Paris. Her most recent book, La Salle d'attente, tells the story of Algeria through the condition of Algerian women under French colonialism and since independence. And among her notable works are La Femme Algérienne and Les Algériennes. And on your program, the brochure, the flyer that we distributed, you can see her many compositions. And it's really a pleasure to have her among us today. Her talk will be entitled Ecrire, une pensée sans frontières, which we've translated as writing is a thought without borders. And then I will try to sum up and give you, since I'm a historian, I'll try to give you a very brief overview of where Algerian studies are at this moment in the United States, but also as far as the continuing ideological contentions between France and Algeria over the authority to write the history of Algeria. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Nour Houda Amri. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Abi-Mershed, for this nice introduction. First, I would like to thank the organizers of the Algerian Cultural Month. First, the Algerian-American Association of Greater Washington, namely Dr. Kharbash and Mr. Ismail. The Arab Center for Contemporary Studies, especially Dr. Abi-Mershed, for welcoming us here. Last but not least, the Embassy of Algeria in the United States, and His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend today, but thank you to all the members of the Embassy who can attend today. And my presentation today covers the evolution of the Algerian Dialectal Arabic, and we will address the following: a historical perspective of languages, the sociolinguistic profile, language evolution and examples, the influence of the media, and the impact on identity. So I will start with a brief overview about Algeria and its rich history. Algeria has been and still is the crossroad of many civilizations. Its strategic geographical position here, the beauty of its nature and resources attracted many emperors. The succession of different empires and colonizers forced Algerians natives to assimilate different cultures and languages. However, no language of the previous invaders remained in the Algerian culture and language except French, which was and still is the most influential one. Today, the globalization and the openness to the world of the media led Algerians to adopt new concepts of the global lingua franca, or the language of science, which is English. I see it necessary to start with a glance to shed on the history of Algeria, to shed light on the evolution that led to the actual situation. In fact, Algeria's coastal zone was a significant interface with the Phoenicians who settled there for the sake of trade. Then it became a Roman province in 46 BC. And we still have many Roman ruins, as shown here in the picture. And we have also the early names of these cities, namely Timgad, Tipaza, Tidis, and many others in different regions of the country. After that, in 395 AD, Algeria was incorporated in the Byzantium Empire after having fought the Vandals, who also occupied the country for 100 years. In the 7th century, Algeria, together with the North African region, was conquered by the Arabs. And the Arab rule lasted almost 9 centuries before it came under the Ottoman supremacy in 1518. So Algeria continued to be an outpost of Ottoman Empire until 1830, when the French occupying forces began to invade the country. At this time, Europeans, not only from France, but also from Spain, Italy, and Malta, settled in the country. The French ruled the country until July 1962, when it gained its independence. Till now, I talked about the different invasions that Algeria had undergone, but I haven't mentioned yet who are the native people of Algeria. In fact, they are the Berber, or in other words, the Amazigh, from the singular Amaziren, which means free man. The language they speak, is a variety of the Semito-Hamitic family of languages, which is a very old language spoken in Southwest Asia and North Africa. They were called Berber by the early Roman invaders, and the word is derived from the Latin word barbarus, which was applied to anyone living beyond the confines of the Roman sphere. The Berber-speaking population resisted adopting all the cultures and religions, and especially languages, of their invaders, except Arabic and Islam. The question one may ask now is, what is the Algerian language? And the answer here is quite simple. Algerians speak a variety of Arabic. And this variety of Arabic, or the Algerian Dialectal Arabic, has many characteristics. The first is being the mother tongue of the majority of the inhabitants of Algeria, used in everyday life, especially in the family, but also used in the media, in, let's say, TV programs and radio, and more often in plays and movies. It is considered as the second language of most of the Berber population. This variety is known as Derja among Algerians. Another characteristic is it has a simplified vowel system and is substantially different from the standard Arabic and other dialects spoken in the Arab world. To sum up, Algerian dialect is the default variety of the spoken form, with regional variations. Here I can give an example to explain what is the regional variation within the dialect. When we have two people saying, let's say, manish rayih and mashni rayih, meaning I'm not going in English, here we can say that both they are speaking different regional dialects. Actually, Algeria is the largest country in Africa, with a long colonial history, as we've previously seen, which made its sociolinguistic profile more complex than it seems, because in 1962, Algerian Arabic, together with Tamazight and French, were commonly used. And despite the intensive continuous policies adopted by the government for Arabization, the influence of the French presence in our different ways of lives, and especially on our language, did not cease with independence. So basically, we have three languages in use in both written and spoken forms. In the spoken form, we have the colloquial Arabic, the Tamazight with its four different varieties, and which are Kabyle, spoken in the north center of the country, Shawiya in the northeast, Mozabit in the North Sahara, and Tamashek, which is the mother tongue of the Tuareg, spoken in the Sahara Desert. And French permeate in all the regions. In the written form, we have the modern standard Arabic, French, and Kabyle, which is the only written variety of Berber. To analyze the sociolinguistic profile in Algeria, we need to understand first how the language evolves. Everything starts with language contact, which can be defined as being the part of the social fabric of people, because it is used all over the world and for all the needs. And it occurs when two or more varieties or languages enter in contact for the sake of trade, migration, and migration here happens even within the tribes of the same community when there is, for example, intermarriage. And the third point is imposition, but here it happens really rarely. The result of this contact is either language loss and assimilation if it is a short-lived contact, or it can produce relatively long-term stability and acceptance, and here the population becomes bi or even multilingual. Actually, this is what happened exactly in Algeria, because in 1848, France declared Algeria as a French territory and tried many policies to eradicate the Algerian culture, and especially the language, because it is a sign of unity and national identity. Among their policies, they tried the assimilation process, which did not work, but rather made Algerians stuck more to their language. But after 130 years of occupation, there was more acceptance and stability of the French language together with the Algerian Arabic, and here Algerians became bilingual population or even multilingual with the introduction of standard Arabic in schools and official writings. Okay, to conclude here, we all agree that language contact over time leads to language change. And any language inevitably changes, even if we want to preserve it. Because we are in constant contact with it, we may fail to see its changes. Another characteristic of language is that it is not static. I mean, it evolves organically as everything else in the world, since it is spoken by millions of people and for many centuries. The causes of change are many. We have the spontaneous change, which happens over time and without any purpose, but rather through interaction, because we agree that there is no people who speak exactly the same, and because of the tendency that people have to adopt new words and utterances, I can give here example of a word that is no more used in our dialect, but which is purely dialectal. It is not in the standard Arabic, which is طلاعة. It's a word from the east region, and this word means the grocery bag. Nowadays, this word is no more used, especially by the younger generation, and now we are using the word قفة, meaning the same, but in standard Arabic, or even file or sac in French. Another factor of change happens through the process of borrowing, which can be defined as the adoption of foreign features into one's language. And here, the half of our dialect, nowadays, especially the one spoken by the younger generation, is basically borrowed words and expressions from French. And in addition to the introduction of the internet in the last decades and the social media, we notice that the changes in our dialect are and the spread of this type of speaking is very quick among the society. And the examples here are many. We have the word for weekend, and to go for a weekend we have un weekendi, and to mean literally hurry up we have active, to mean activate. Yeah, we have, but the best word, which is ndous, from the French word dossier, or English file. And here the word is used as a verb. So Algerians, we made it fit to our structural rules and grammatical rules to use it as a verb, and to mean here literally to get news of someone else for gossiping. The third cause of language change is imposition, rather through invasion, as discussed before, or through planning policies, where planners seek for official or national language in order to assimilate minority language groups. And the agents of change also are many. We have social status, where people tend to adopt some features of the upper social class, seen as a prestigious one in order to gain prestige. Gender, women generally tend to use a variety which is close to the standard because they care about their social behavior and prestige, while men use more vernacular forms and simplified pronunciations. Age, younger people are the responsible factor of change. They innovate, then some of the innovations spread to the whole population and gradually change the language. Interaction, where through it people pick up new words and adopt them into their speech, and with the new technologies as the internet and the social media, people now use universal terms to define some concepts and meaning, such as to surf, to chat, texting, emails, and everything else. The widespread of the technology and the social media and the way they are modifying our languages all over the world make a revolution in the field of sociolinguistics. And now, specialists in the field are studying language change from a different angle, but still it is hard to cope with the speed and the spread of the new vocabulary among the young adults. Specifically, in Algeria, the Facebook users sees a daily increase in a total population of about 38 million, as estimated in January 2013 by the National Office of Statistics, ONS. Over 4 million are Facebook users. And among the total population, here, we have almost 39% that are represented by teens and young adults aged between 15 and 34 years old. And we notice here that they represent 2/3 of the total Facebook users. And in the last 6 months, Facebook also counted more than 500,000 new accounts from Algeria. And we have also instant messaging and video chat that are highly used. Also, YouTube and Twitter also have an increase of users and daily visitors. A study published in 2012 by the Dubai School of Government, they found that Algeria ranked in the 4th position in the Arab countries, including Iran, Israel, and Turkey, by its new Facebook users. In the same study, they looked at the language interface or preference, and Algeria here has a high level of use of French instead of English and Arabic, along with Morocco, Mauritania, Tunisia, and Comoros Islands. And here, actually, this is the result of the post-colonial period, because all these countries were in the past French colonies. The impact of the social media on language can be either positive or negative. It can be positive then in a sense that people now use more English, are learning new vocabulary and new words, and meet virtually with people having different languages and cultures. But the negative side stands for the poor grammar, the unconventional writing styles, the use of media slang, loss of language skills, and decrease in competence in standard Arabic and French. And the impact of the social media on identity is worse, because people now try to imitate behaviors and try to be people who actually they are not. They stereotype on genders, adopt the globalization model. Here I need to clarify this point, because due to the globalization, some cultures are being lost. And because the wealthy countries now produce many things that can affect cultures, such as clothes, movies, and technological products, and this makes the community becomes more ignorant about social, ethnic, and moral values, which are important in defining groups. Okay, language shift as a concept is a gradual process which does not happen over time, but it occurs when a speech community gives up its language and adopts a new one. The shift can be complete or partial. When it is complete, it's the emergence of a new mother tongue, but when it's partial, it's just the replacement of some features for specific functions. What should we do to maintain our dialect, and especially why? The preservation of ethnic minority language through these methodologies is called language maintenance. But to achieve these goals, we have first to increase the awareness among the younger generation about the importance of a dialect as a sign of unity and national identity. And then try to apply this in educational institutions, in the media here I mean TV programs and radio and the written media. Ethnic language practice, literacy. Here literacy, I mean when people became highly educated, they are more conscious about the importance of their dialect and ethnic language. And in the family relationship and the friendship networks. As conclusion, and for me, this is my own point of view, identity is the most important factor of change, for language maintenance and preservation. Because any language in the world is a symbol of any minority group's identity. And the language is likely to be maintained for generations and for many centuries when preserved and considered as a national identity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nour, you're on time also.
Oh, good.
And I hope one day you'll teach me how to make graphs. Those were great graphs. Yeah. Our next speaker is Fadéla Mrabit, and she will be giving her talk in French. We have provided summaries, but also a translation of the essence of Fadéla's talk. And if you have questions for her later, then we'll do our best to translate the question and the answer. And I wanted to thank Suleyman Haddawi for helping me summarize and translate the text. But I also want to extend a special thanks to Nicholas Hilgeman, who helped us organizing the event here, and more importantly, Elizabeth Sexton, who was hired just last week and is basically already in the fray of things and doing a great job, so thank you. Stand up, Elizabeth. Yeah. Is Nick here? Elizabeth's here, but Nick is not here, right? All right, well, I'll now cede the floor to Fadéla Mrabit. Thank you very much.
Hélas, je ne connais que deux langues, l'arabe dialectal et le français. C'est la raison pour laquelle je dis aux représentants de l'ambassade d'Algérie, marhaba bik, et à monsieur Osama Abi-Mershed, je lui dis toute ma reconnaissance de m'avoir accueilli dans cette prestigieuse université. Je vais vous parler de mon écriture. J'ai vécu la colonisation, la guerre d'Algérie et les 50 ans de la post-indépendance. L'écriture est la peinture de la voix, dit Voltaire. Plus elle est ressemblante, meilleure elle est. Je suis d'autant plus sensible à cette réflexion que j'ai commencé à écrire avec ma voix à la radio algérienne dès la première année de l'indépendance. c'est quand on m'a arraché le micro que je l'ai remplacé par la plume. Dans écrire, il y a toutes les lettres du verbe crier. Le premier cri de l'homme est l'acte fondateur de la vie. Le cri de la naissance inaugure la respiration. Crier, c'est respirer. Respirer, c'est crier. On étouffe quand on ne crie pas. On meurt de ne pas crier. Le premier cri de l'homme fonde sa dignité. Il fait de lui un homme révolté de naissance. Il fait de l'homme, avant même qu'il n'ouvre les yeux, un être conscient de sa chute dans un monde tragique. C'est le Norvégien Munch qui nous a restitué d'une façon indépassable le cri de notre naissance. Partout, ici comme ailleurs, il y a des hommes, des femmes qui ne savent pas qu'ils savent écrire, parce qu'enfants, ils criaient beaucoup et on les a frappés pour qu'ils se taisent. On est bien élevé quand on ne crie pas. Quand on se tait, on devient la majorité silencieuse. Les enfants qui continuent de crier, on les entendra crier plus tard sous la torture. Écrire, c'est retrouver cette voix intérieure qui ne ment pas, qu'on a voulu étouffer. C'est rechercher d'abord le mot le plus juste et non pas le plus savant pour la transmettre et non pour éblouir. Le mot juste, voilà mon exigence. Et qu'importe l'origine de la langue, si j'arrive à exprimer toute ma pensée, tous mes sentiments. C'est avec la langue française que je le fais le mieux, parce qu'au cours de mes études, j'ai accumulé un nombre inestimable de mots dans de multiples domaines. Souvent, quand il s'exprime dans une langue étrangère, un écrivain fait l'écrivain. Il pense que la simplicité le trahit et le dévalorise. Il devient précieux et ridicule. Il remplace le mot juste par la boursouflure, le style par l'imitation. Mais même avec toutes les nuances voulues, une langue ne se réduit pas à son vocabulaire. Elle n'existe pleinement, riche de toutes ses subtilités, que si elle possède un arrière-fond culturel qui ne s'acquiert qu'avec l'immersion et le temps. Parler, écrire en français n'était pas faire le deuil de l'arabe, puisque la seule langue qu'on m'ait apprise, l'arabe dialectal, n'était pas une langue morte. Depuis ma naissance, je baignais dans la polyphonie, l'arabe à la maison, le français à l'école, le mélange surréaliste du français et de l'arabe, éternel filon des humoristes. Le français et l'arabe sont l'une et l'autre mes deux langues d'immersion. J'utilise la langue française sans complexe et sans culpabilité, sans arrogance mais sans humilité. Sans arrogance parce que je sais que la langue arabe aussi est une langue prestigieuse. Elle a été la langue de l'élite enseignée à la cour de France. J'aurais été très fière de l'écrire et de la parler comme mon père, héritier du siècle d'or du génie arabe. Il parlait l'arabe comme une langue vivante. Ce n'était pas la langue morte des démagogues. Sa langue était porteuse d'une pensée philosophique et politique, d'une éthique. Elle coulait de source. Ce n'était pas une langue traduite du français comme beaucoup de discours d'aujourd'hui. Mais hélas, les écoles arabes étaient des écoles au rabais du fait de la politique coloniale. Elles enseignaient presque exclusivement le Coran, que mon père m'a enseigné à la maison. Ainsi, la langue française est devenue la mienne comme l'arabe. Quand je parle en français, je pense en français. Quand je parle en arabe, je pense en arabe. Et les représentations qu'éveillent les mots arabes, je les exprime spontanément en français. Le mot français n'exclut pas l'objet représenté par le mot arabe. Il est tout simplement décalé. En français comme en arabe, tout est restitué, mais pas dans le même ordre, ni avec la même intensité affective, la même charge émotionnelle, ni la même sensualité. Même s'il y a des mots qui font surgir... Non, justement, je l'ai élagué parce que pour faire les 20 minutes. Donc, je passe à autre chose. Quand je dis El-Jazeera, Algérie en arabe, c'est d'abord l'image de Jeddah, ma grand-mère, qui se présente à moi. Je la vois entre ciel et terre sur la terrasse, à la fois bien plantée sur ses jambes comme sur un piédestal et la tête touchant le ciel face à la mer dans la clarté de l'aurore. Elle est présente comme les collines, comme le ciel, comme la mer. Elle est dans le paysage qu'elle anime. Mon enfance est Skikda, immobile, dans un temps ordonné par Djeddah. La mer n'a pas une ride. Elle a ce léger voile de l'aube, comme le regard embué d'un enfant qui se réveille les joues humides sans un pli, comme le regard sur notre enfance dans le flou de nos songes. À cette époque-là, Djeddah avait 50 ans pour toujours, l'âge définitif de toutes les grand-mères, pensais-je. Elle fait sa prière, un châle sur les épaules, fixé par une fibule en or. Ses nombreux bracelets s'entrechoquent à chaque génuflexion sur son tapis aux couleurs de ses multiples foulards noués sur la tête. Ses boucles d'oreilles se balancent comme ces hirondelles alignées sur les fils électriques qui, de ces balcons du ciel, l'observent en silence. Djeddah rayonnante s'impose à moi quand je pense à l'Algérie en arabe. C'est un peu la Maya du Prado, c'est l'Algérie sensuelle et splendide de mon enfance, voilée de la transparence de sa lumière. Quand je pense à l'Algérie en français, j'entends les cris de « Algérie française !» et les concerts de casseroles des Européens, suivis du « Je vous ai compris » du général de Gaulle. Mais recouvrant le tout, me parviennent des profondeurs de mes souvenirs l'explosion d'une bombe dégageant un énorme champignon et une voix off aux actualités qui nous déclare d'une façon emphatique et définitive « L'Algérie, réalisation du génie français, restera française ». Demeure toujours en moi cette stupéfaction devant tant de stupidité et de mépris. Quand je dis drapeau en arabe, l'Ahlem, je suis submergée par l'émotion qui fait battre mon cœur jusqu'à la douleur lorsque je l'ai vu brandi pour la première fois. J'ai le souvenir d'une foule soudain devenue une houle agitée par les drapeaux, puis marée humaine aux couleurs algériennes. C'était un moment surnaturel et je le pressentais dramatique. J'étais dans un état d'agitation extrême. Penchée au-dessus de la terrasse de ma tente, surplombant la Médina, me parvenait la faveur de la foule. Les cris de « Tahia al-Jazair » « Vive l'Algérie » semblaient sortis d'une seule poitrine immense. J'étais dans un état de semi-conscience, ma tête tournée, mes jambes vacillaient. Puis j'ai vu les gens tomber sous les balles du service d'ordre colonial. C'était après l'armistice de la guerre de 40, les soldats algériens venaient de rentrer chez eux. Les drapeaux sont liés aux hymnes nationaux. Dès que retentit l'hymne algérien, Qassama, j'entends toujours le même cri, celui d'un gamin qui résistait au bourreau qui l'emmenait à l'échafaud. Le chant de ses compagnons et les youyous brisés des femmes n'arrivaient pas à le couvrir. Le cri d'un résistant qui ne voulait pas mourir à 20 ans. S'élève le chant des partisans et le déserteur de Boris Vian. La voix de Mouloudji et celle d'Yves Montand, amplifiées par les poitrines de tous les humiliés de la terre. Quand je dis drapeau en français, je vois le drapeau tricolore au fronton de mon école primaire, l'école Victor Hugo. Je ressens beaucoup de tendresse à l'évocation de ma première institutrice qui nous a couvé plusieurs années de suite, Fadéla, ma cousine et moi, ses seules élèves algériennes dans une classe de 35 européennes. Encouragée par cette femme venue de France, bienveillante et jamais avare de compliments, nous voulions démontrer que les Arabes étaient aussi intelligents que les Européens. À la fin du trimestre, nous étions en tête de classe, une classe où nous ne nous sommes jamais sentis exclus. Notre institutrice reste pour moi la figure exemplaire de la culture universaliste et humaniste de l'école française. Une culture en harmonie avec ses leçons de morale et d'instruction civique. Culture et morale que j'ai cru pendant longtemps indissociable chez les Français de France, dont elle était pour moi l'ambassadrice. J'ai eu la chance d'avoir été aimée dès mes études à l'école par cette figure magnifiée de la vraie France, la France des Lumières. C'est sans doute pourquoi je ne me suis jamais sentie en exil en France. Mon écriture est faite de mes deux langues, la langue arabe parlée et la langue française littéraire. Un écrivain se caractérise par une petite musique. La mienne est faite d'une polyphonie, celle de la multitude des voix de femmes de ma vie intra-utérine, des berceuses de toutes celles qui m'ont prise dans leurs bras, des contes de Djeddah, de toutes ces nombreuses passagères de la villa familiale qui transformèrent le patio en théâtre de la ville. Quand j'écris, c'est la voix chaleureuse, sensuelle de Djeddah que j'entends, celle pleine de fraîcheur et d'éclat de Yemma, ma mère, restée une éternelle gamine, celle de toute de retenue de Nana, ma tante. Toutes ces voix me parviennent à travers la rumeur de la mer mêlée au bruit de la ville. Mais s'il y a tous les bruits, toutes les saveurs, tous les parfums d'Arabie et de la Méditerranée, la précision et la concision de mon écriture font que ma littérature n'est jamais un loukoum. C'est à la fois la faute à Voltaire et la faute à mon père, parce que le Maghreb n'est pas l'Orient. Tout écrivain écrit avec une nouvelle langue. Toute langue est mixte comme tout mariage. Un écrivain français ne sait pas qu'il est francophone, comme tout écrivain de langue française, qu'il vienne d'Alger, de Gao ou de Bourg-en-Bresse. C'est l'ethnocentrisme qui lui fait croire le contraire et qui le fait croire au libraire. Ainsi trouve-t-on un excellent écrivain dans la langue française de Stendhal, rangé dans le rayon Afrique, alors qu'il n'écrit ni en Peul, ni en Wolof, ni en Bambara, ni en Swahili. Emin Malouf dans la littérature arabe, Taha Benjeloun dans l'Allée sans issue intitulée Maghreb, alors qu'il n'écrit ni en arabe, ni en berbère. Pourquoi les Français ont-ils cette propension à subdiviser toujours en classe sous classe? Avant, il y avait la noblesse et le tiers-état, comme il y avait le statut de Français et celui de musulman. Aujourd'hui, il y a les écrivains français et les francophones, toujours eux et nous. Pourquoi pas nous, tout simplement, écrivains de tout pays? Comment lutter contre le communautarisme quand l'exemple ne vient pas des gens de culture? Je ne me suis jamais sentie étrangère nulle part. Partout, j'ai rencontré des êtres qui me semblaient aussi intelligents, aussi courageux, aussi généreux que ceux que j'aime dans mon pays. Les deux cultures qui me nourrissent m'ont rendu sensible à un large spectre d'hommes et de femmes. Dans la maison familiale, grande ouverte sur la ville, accouraient toutes les femmes qui entendaient les youyous ou les chants des baptêmes, des mariages, pour partager nos joies ou pour nous consoler quand leur parvenaient nos pleurs. Les plus pauvres comme les plus nantis étaient alors fusionnels. S'étalaient ainsi sous mes yeux tous les âges de l'évolution humaine, la préhistoire, l'Antiquité, le Moyen-Âge, les temps modernes, dans le désordre comme toutes les classes sociales. Les Algériens évoluent depuis la naissance au sein d'une humanité qui témoigne de toutes les époques de l'histoire de l'homme. Ils sont plongés dans la cour des miracles et la cour des grands. Ils ont tous un frère, un cousin dans chaque classe sociale, qui les rend familiers des miséreux comme des nantis, des lettrés distingués, des analphabètes, des citadins raffinés et des paysans. Ces sources multiples surgies des profondeurs des origines et ma culture française, je les ai absorbées simultanément comme l'air que je respire. Je les ai assimilées et transformées, elles sont devenues ma substance propre et singulière. Mes cultures ne s'entrechoquent pas. Humanistes toutes les deux, celle du siècle d'or du génie arabe et celle des Lumières de l'école française, ont fusionné pour me donner cette aptitude à l'empathie qui rend impossible toute mise à distance et incompréhensible toute exclusion. Il est difficile à celui qui la possède d'adopter le regard du sphinx, ou bien l'on devient fou, ou l'on acquiert le regard à 1000 facettes de l'abeille et la sensibilité des vibrisses d'un chat pour survivre et témoigner d'une humanité une et indivisible. Pour rendre absurde cette éternelle question, es-tu un écrivain français ou un écrivain algérien? Absurde parce que la culture n'a pas de carte d'identité et n'a pas besoin de visa pour franchir les frontières. Quand je lis Dostoïevski, je retrouve la dimension tragique de la société algérienne. Quand chez ces personnages, le pire et le meilleur sont juxtaposés, il nous parle de tous les hommes. Quand je lis Molière, je ris des tartuffes de mon pays. Toutes les grandes cultures sont universelles. Les grandes œuvres, celles d'Ibn Khaldoun, de Shakespeare, par exemple de Goethe, de Dante ou de Victor Hugo, de Taha Hussein, de Pessoa, Goya ou Munch, parlent à tous ceux qui les approchent. Quelle que soit leur nationalité, c'est leur richesse qui les rend disponibles à tous et abolit les frontières. Qui dit culture dit à la base ouverture sociale, accueil d'apports étrangers, mélange, fusion et dépassement des différences. Toute société qui se ferme aux autres et se constitue en ghetto est incapable de produire une culture à vocation universelle. Tout repli sur soi stérilise. La chance culturelle de l'Algérie et d'être restée ouverte au cours de son histoire à tous les vents du large, ceux des tempêtes marines et ceux des tempêtes de sable. Nos attentes naissent de tous les infinis qu'embrasse notre regard, le ciel, la mer, le désert, et rendent nos espoirs sans limite. Nous sommes en attente d'un monde qui englobe tous les mondes, ceux d'Orient et d'Occident. Que dans le creuset algérien se soient mêlés au cours des siècles des hommes et des femmes d'origines diverses, que ces citoyens disposent de 3 langues, c'est une très grande richesse. Ne pas les trahir, c'est les revendiquer toutes comme nos multiples appartenances. Ne pas les trahir, c'est la seule façon d'être apaisé, unifié. Dans la mesure où l'Algérie accueillera sans réticence les grands courants intellectuels et artistiques du monde entier, elle sera à même de créer une culture qui dépassera ses frontières, culture algérienne par sa naissance, par ses producteurs, mais culture humaine et universaliste par sa portée. Elle prolongera ainsi l'écho du premier cri de l'homme, cri surgi d'une poitrine africaine d'un homme qui dit non. L'Algérie a pour vocation naturelle de promouvoir l'humanisme universaliste pour rester fidèle à ses origines, la terre africaine, berceau de l'humanité. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you, Fadéla, for a very powerful presentation. This has to be the best behaved panel I've ever been on. Everyone's on time. So. Me too. Yeah. So I need to self-police myself. All right, as I listen, as I listen to these, to my predecessors here, a theme is starting to emerge, which is a common thread between the presentations, which is the relationship between representation through language and power. And what I titled my talk today, Algeria at 50, History, Memory, Politics. But what I will be doing is offering some brief comments on the state of Algerian studies 50 years after independence, and particularly from the perspective of American academia, because one of the main difficulties confronting scholars in this country stems from the institutional format for North African studies in the United States. Because the Maghreb as a whole is rarely studied on its own terms. It's more often regarded as a peripheral extension of the Arab East, al-Mashriq. Or worse, it can more often be treated as a derivative subchapter to European history, especially European colonial history. And in fact, most researchers in the United States still feel that Algerian studies are a very specialized French preserve, une chasse gardée. And this is compounded by the fact that many scholars in the field of North African studies are in reality specialists in French history with little to no training in North African, Arabic, or Islamic disciplines. This is sort of the dirty little secret behind North African studies in the US, is that we have French historians working on Algeria without knowing many of not having the skills to really deal with Arabic or Islamic or Algerian sciences and histories. So these are the factors that kind of create distortions in the way we write and in the way we conceptualize Algerian history. Algeria, by and large, comes into the light of history only during the colonial era. And as a result, our understanding of this history remains to this day colored by the ongoing political and ideological contentions over the legacy of this colonial episode. And it's this aspect of Algerian studies that I will underscore today in order to show how the political interests of the French ruling classes, the French elites, continue to shape our collective memory and knowledge of Algerian history. And into this category of French ruling classes and elite, I'm also obviously going to throw in there the French academics, right? And as you can see from this visual here, in France proper, this politics of memory to which I'm referring is literally referred to as a war, la guerre des mémoires. This is an expression that should give you clear indication of the intensity of the academic and the political questions about Algerian history, more specifically about the history of French Algeria. Indeed, 50 years after independence, and the debate on the colonial legacy in Algeria is becoming more contentious and has not been able to separate, or at least to liberate itself from a division between two ideological camps that are becoming more acute and more, these divisions are becoming more acute over time. And on the one side, to talk very briefly about these two opposite camps, on one side we have scholars who read or who regard Algerian culture and society as residual historical elements, with experiences and meanings that cannot be verified or expressed without effective reference to the dominant culture of France. So for these scholars, the history of Algeria translates quite simply into the history of France in Algeria. And on the other side, we have the apostles of national liberation, for whom colonial rule was an accident of history, a mere deviation in the evolution of Algerian society. And at independence, according to their narrative, the Algerian nation recovered its original and unadulterated essence, and history resumed its natural and intended course. And this enduring push and pull between one reading of history that owes everything to colonialism and another reading of history that owes nothing to colonialism tends to define the outer boundaries or the outer limits of Algerian studies. But it also configures the space between, the inner field, to the extent that every academic endeavor, whether it's written in Arabic, French, or English, must somehow position itself in relation to these two polarized schools of thought. So one way to think about Algerian historiography is to look at it as a pendulum that shifts according to the forces of attraction between the two poles. And the momentum of this pendulum can only reflect and respond to the changing balance in Franco-Algerian relations. In one way or another, the larger political context of Franco-Algerian relations has always figured as an active ingredient in our reading of the colonial histories of France and Algeria. And while I have time only for a rough schematic account, I hope that the following overview will show how political calculations have enabled and made possible certain readings of history, while also disabling and rendering impractical alternative readings of this same history. As we've already heard in the previous papers, France conquered Algeria in the early 19th century in the name of its universal mission, Mission Civilisatrice. The stated aim of the mission was to modernize and emancipate Algerians through political and cultural assimilation. Historical accounts from this period, starting in the 1830s and lasting through the 1860s, depicted Algerians as retrograde, but their backwardness was due to historical circumstances rather than to cultural or racial attributes. And as you can see in this image, if I can find it, do better this way. Yeah. All right. Now this is a very nice summary of the ideology behind the civilizing mission. The colonization of Algeria was not a military conquest, but a redeeming, humanizing mission. The French, as you can see in this engraving, the French brought with them art, science, law, commerce, and in time, the Algerians were bound to appreciate the superiority and, more importantly, the legitimacy of colonial rule. And you can see also on this photo of this painting, you have a beam of light radiating from France and enlightening Algeria. This is what you see up here, right? But then note also another thread that you will see repeatedly in representations of the civilizing mission, which is that the French conquest of Algeria in fact redeemed North Africa by restoring it to the realm of Roman and Christian civilization. And this is why you'll have these Greco-Roman costumes and helmets, right? So this is not so much a conquest as it is a restoration of the original legitimate civilization in North Africa, Roman and Latin Catholic civilization. By the late 19th century, when this didn't happen, when you didn't have the Algerians, in fact, acknowledging the superiority of French rule, but in fact continuing to resist subjugation, the policies of assimilation became practically unattainable and politically undesirable. Algerians, at this point in time, it was now argued, had failed to recognize the benefits of French rule because their Muslim faith was incompatible with European modernity. And France then abandoned all talk and all policy and all practice of assimilation and opted for a policy of what they called Colonial Association, right? And historical accounts from this period, lasting until the Second World War, reduced Algerians to their economic value as laborers on colonial estates or workers and soldiers in France's factories and armies. And here's another illustration that summarizes the new spirit of the civilizing mission. This image basically sums up the colonial relation. As you can see, with different details in this poster, the fruits of colonialism are civilization and the rule of law, industry, commerce, wealth, and plenty. There's also references to justice, hygiene, healthcare, education, literacy, and knowledge. And you can also detect that the natives are displaying their approval of colonialism in the affectionate handshake with the settler, but they also demonstrate loyalty to France by providing soldiers to carry the flag and protect the empire. And this was kind of the spirit of Colonial Association that's going to see any kind of historical writing initiative through the 1950s. What changes in the 1950s was the growing realization that colonialism was a dying era. And the civilizing mission, suddenly here now you have a 180-degree turn, because the civilizing mission now was increasingly depicted in negative terms. It was depicted as a drain on the French economy and the national genius. The colonies suddenly stood for archaic imperialism, political authoritarianism, and economic folly. To be modern now meant to be post-colonial. And Algeria's colonial subjects therefore had to be excluded from the secular French Republic. And when de Gaulle returned to power in 1958, it was expressly to deal with the growing Algerian crisis. His first act was to dissolve the Fourth Republic and adopt a new constitution that granted the presidency extraordinary executive powers in order to defeat Algeria's nationalist uprising. The Fifth Republic that de Gaulle brought about, France as we know it today, is literally the creation of Algeria's War of Independence. By this I mean that the governing institutions of the Fifth Republic were put in place as de Gaulle was effectively seeking to extricate France from Algeria and at the same time make sure that the former colonial subjects, Muslims, would be excluded from the secular republic. And following Algeria's independence in 1962, if you want to translate this legal political exercise into academic terms, you'll see that following Algeria's independence in 1962, France embarked on legal, political, and philosophical exercises to jettison its colonial past and to concentrate on European integration and cooperation with Germany. French academia and officialdom followed suit and did their best to forget the colonial chapter, or at least to put the colonial chapter behind them. And at this point, colonial history turned inwards. This is I'm going to be now showing you several works that reflect the larger spirit of French academia when it comes to dealing with Algeria. Here, basically, the subtitle is Retour à l'Hexagone. So the colonial problem is investigated through its domestic dimensions only. So colonial history turns inwards, and the Algerian crisis became a domestic failure. Not a domestic failure, a domestic affair. A Franco-French tussle, a confrontation between right-wing supporters of colonialism and those like de Gaulle who, in fact, had betrayed French Algeria. This is, since we had an earlier reference to Je vous ai compris, for some French, Je vous ai trahi is more the, right, is the more accurate description. So, but the arrival at the same time, beginning in the 1960s and continuing into the 70s, of hundreds of thousands of migrant workers from the former colony now posed problems for France's exercise in national amnesia. How could millions of Algerian immigrants be integrated into a republic whose founding institutions and constitutional notions of citizenship had been predicated on their very exclusion? For a number of French policymakers, the so-called immigration problem was essentially a colonial leftover. And integrating Algerian immigrants into the social fabric of France did not only go against the very logic of France's decolonization, but it also resurrected the old divisions of the 1950s and 1960s. And here I will show you an FN Front National poster, and it's very telling that the last caption is "Pour ne plus se tromper," so that we do not make the same mistakes again. What mistakes could these be? The mistakes of colonialism and trying to mix and assimilate with Muslims from North Africa. So here's the echo between immigration and decolonization again. Now, it had long been established. In fact, de Gaulle himself had said so, that Islam was not compatible with European civilization. And here's another poster from the Front National, which is from the most recent campaign, which shows you how Islamism is not compatible with French republicanism. And if you look at the poster on the right, to the left of this candidate, note how Islamism is represented by minarets, by women wearing the burqa, but also by the flag of Algeria, right? So this is about as direct a reference as you can find. And in the 1980s, in the new political climate, conservative elements and right-wing political parties like the Front National, whose posters I just showed you, made the presence of so many undesirable Algerians in France the bedrock of their domestic anti-immigration and anti-integration platforms. So much so that by the early 1990s, specifically as civil conflict was raging in Algeria, ignoring the colonial past was no longer viable. And some public officials and scholars now chose to go back to this colonial history in order to mine it and repeat the racial and essential reasons for excluding Algerian immigrants from the modern, secular, and liberal republic. And by 2002, what we have now is France is no longer trying to forget its colonial past, but it's embracing it fully, but in a way to try to turn it into something positive. Positive for the North Africans, not for the French. Les bienfaits de la civilisation. So by 2002, this current had translated into what's being termed the return of the colonial, le retour du colonial. Right. And it's all about the rehabilitation of colonial history. Now, the return of the colonial defines the official and academic drive to rehabilitate and redeem France's imperial past. And this exercise was expressed most graphically with the project law of the 23rd of February 2005, which mandated French schools to teach colonial history in a positive light. Basically, what this law was doing was saying that teaching the history of colonialism in a negative light was illegal in France. And this is a law that barely passed had it not been for a last-minute outcry by leftist and North African organizations in France. But the law was a landmark occasion for scholars who are interested in the politics of memory. And it was in fact soon followed by a plethora of official speeches and intellectual discourses praising the positive legacies of colonialism. And as an example, in July 2007, President Nicolas Sarkozy chose his visit to Senegal as the backdrop for a speech in which he exonerated France's colonization of Africa, and in fact blamed the continent's poverty and underdevelopment on the inability of Africans to embrace the idea of progress. Africans, he claimed, this is in front of a Senegalese audience, Africans, he claimed, never really entered into history and have never really launched themselves into the future. And Sarkozy's paternalistic speech then opened the gates for a systematic campaign by prominent conservative politicians, intellectuals, and media personalities to demand an official moratorium on public and private expressions of regret for colonialism in France. As far as they're concerned, France had nothing to apologize for and nothing to be ashamed of, if you'll forgive my ending on two propositions, right? So here's another, this is a poster that you find on some of these right-wing blogs addressing Algeria's constant demands for compensation and recognition of atrocities committed. So, and you can see, again, this political atmosphere being translated into academic works, such as a famous, or if you want, infamous, depending on which side of the political divide you stand. Daniel Lefebvre has made a whole industry of resurrecting colonialism and giving it a positive balance sheet, and in fact blaming the problems of the post-colonial world on independence rather than on colonialism. And so you can have publications with titles such as Vive l'Algérie française, Pour en finir avec la repentance coloniale, or Essai sur la colonisation positive. There's a whole, I mean, if you really want to sell books these days, go ahead and say colonialism was great for everyone and you'll have a ready-made audience. But if you don't want to do this, then you have a struggle ahead of you. And anti-colonial scholars who are basically coming from the opposite camp, from Algeria, Algerian scholars themselves, are basically trying to write books responding to the return of the colonial by exposing the deep brutality of French colonialism and reminding the French public about the atrocities committed in the name of the civilizing mission. And today the standoff between proponents and distractors of the Retour du Colonial continues, which is why one of the first questions to be raised in public the day after the election of François Hollande in May of last year was whether the new president would make overtures to former African colonies to atone for the excesses of Sarkozy. And I think I don't need to inform this particular audience about the significance of Hollande's official visit to Algeria last December and how it was covered by both the French and the Algerian media. I think I may have run out of time. I was going to say about how this is impacting American academia, but I'm going to be as good as my predecessors and stop here, and thank you very much. So we will now open the floors to questions. Yes, I think we have a microphone.
Hello. Yeah, I have a question for Nour and Houda. You spoke about Arabic, Persian, and French. I have a question. Spain remained in North Africa for centuries. Don't you think that most of our franchise is coming from Spanish, not from French?
Compared actually the policy is that the French applied was different from that of Spain. I agree that Spain also settled in Algeria, but now what we can see is the influence of the French language and not the Spanish one. Yet in the west region of Algeria, still they have some of the features of the Spanish language, but not as the French one.
I have an example.
Mm-hmm, sure.
In Portuguese, we say for the kitchen, cozinha.
Mm-hmm.
Algerians say for kitchen, cozinha. Mais dans cette cuisine,
It's in Italian too. I've mentioned before that not at the time of the French colonialism, not only Europeans from France were settled in the country, but also from Spain, Italy, Malta. And we also have many Italian words in our language, also in our dialectal language. So, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah?
You just wanted to bring it closer.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bassaha here has a question.
Merci. J'ai une question pour chacun de vous. Alors la première question c'est,
I've been waiting for your questions, Mr. Broussais, for many weeks now.
effectivement, vous avez établi avec beaucoup de clarté qu'il y a 3 langages bien ancrés en Algérie. Quelle est leur traduction sur le plan économique et administratif et comment est-ce qu'il y a cette symbiose, comme c'est le cas aux États-Unis? In English, you have clearly established that we have 3 main languages. Now, what's the translation on the economic side, on the sociological side, on the administrative side, in order to accommodate the people who practice the theory? For Madame Merabet, I have to tell you that it's a pleasure to see you.
In French.
Ah, pardon.
Ensuite en arabe.
Voilà, non, l'arabe, peut-être en kabyle. Hein. Madame Merabet. Madame Merabet, soyez la bienvenue ici. Madame Merabet, je me rappelle son courage pour avoir publié en 1968, 65 un bouquin. Et le mari à Madame Merabet était effectivement mon professeur de philo. Alors, une question. Qu'est-ce qu'il se fait en Algérie sur le plan culturel pour essayer de préserver cette richesse? Et pour notre ami, vous avez effectivement fait un survol. Ah, ok. Man, it's complicated. The life. Okay. The English question for Mrs. Merabet is, what is being done in Algeria in terms of cultural policy, which I understand is in the making now. Dernière question pour Monsieur Abi-Mershed. Vous avez fait un excellent survol un peu des sujets d'histoire. Mais ce que je constate aussi, c'est qu'il n'y a pas aussi de réponse du côté des historiens algériens. Qu'en est-il aujourd'hui? Parce qu'il y a quand même un énorme travail qui doit être fait de notre côté. Il ne faut pas toujours attendre que, comme vous l'avez si bien dit, que les historiens français prennent le temps soit de défendre, soit de contredire un peu l'histoire. In English again, for Mr. Abi-Mershed, what's being done on the Algerian side in terms of history to put things in a factual manner and in order to square very much the debate that is changing all the time over the years depending upon the economic and social interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think so, yeah. Okay, Mr. Bassaha, actually, I'm not a specialist in the economic side of our country or our language, but what I can say is the Algerian government is actually trying to adopt the Arabization in different fields of our lives, let's say, in education, in administration, and even in the government. Now the Senate and everything is basically discussed in Arabic. But I think that the international reports and everything else is still done in French, which exactly summarizes the case of what you are living now. Because we think in Arabic, we try to proceed in Arabic, but actually we report everything, let's say, beyond Algeria in French. And this is also the post-colonial result, and we are cannot get rid of it in 50 years, I think, unfortunately.
Vous savez aussi bien que moi que le pouvoir colonial nous a refusé le savoir pour qu'on ne demande pas le pouvoir. Eh bien, le pouvoir algérien nous a refusé le savoir du siècle d'or du génie arabe et le savoir du siècle des Lumières de l'école française. le plus grand crime commis en Algérie, ça a été la destruction de l'école. J'ai assisté à ça, puisque j'ai été une des premières productrices à la radio algérienne et j'enseignais la biologie. Et j'ai assisté petit à petit à la destruction de l'école. Et par quoi? Par l'arabisation sauvage qui a été faite avec des enseignants venus de Bagdad, de Damas, de Riyad, du Caire. Ce n'étaient pas des enseignants, c'était des pseudo-enseignants. Ils n'avaient aucun diplôme. Je dis qu'ils ont été des faussaires qui ont été les fossoyeurs de l'école algérienne. Ils sont venus avec un seul livre, un livre doré sur tranche, un livre millénaire, le Coran, dont ils n'avaient pas les bases culturelles. Et du jour au lendemain, il n'y avait plus de liberté d'expression, il n'y avait plus de liberté de conscience. Du jour au lendemain, et qu'est-ce qu'ils faisaient? Ils annonnaient le Coran. Et ça semble actuellement, mais c'est ça qui est normal. Il faut réformer l'école. Ce n'est que comme ça qu'on peut avancer. Par exemple, la ministre de la Culture, Khalida Toumi, fait des efforts considérables. Moi, elle m'invite régulièrement pour présenter mes livres et grâce à elle, mes livres sont maintenant publiés en même temps, simultanément, à Paris et à Alger. Et elle fait des livres, quand c'est des livres des éditions algériennes qui ne coûtent pas cher. J'ai vu par exemple des petits livres d'enfants cartonnés avec des dessins. Vous voyez, une famille qui a travaillé à côté de moi, au centre de mon éditrice. La mère peint les paysages, les jeunes filles peignent les personnages, avec des textes superbes, pédagogiques. Par exemple, elle leur apprend que dans une pomme, il y a telle vitamine. Vous voyez, mais des petites merveilles qui ne coûtent que 100 dinars. Les livres français continuent à être très chers. Eh bien, elle fait des efforts considérables. Et depuis maintenant des années, elle m'invite, je vais 2 fois par an, pour le festival de la littérature et pour le SILA, le Salon international du livre d'Alger. Il y a de plus en plus de monde. Il y a des femmes qui viennent avec le niqab, avec leurs enfants. Et je suis là, moi, je les oriente vers ces petits livres. Elles me remercient chaleureusement. Elles achètent ces livres parce que ce qui est émouvant, c'est que je retrouve cette soif d'apprendre en Algérie. Des familles entières qui viennent les parents sont analphabètes, mais ils viennent, ils achètent beaucoup de livres, ils s'en vont avec des couffins, vous savez, des sachets pleins de livres. Il y a une soif de savoir, mais seulement le pouvoir ne suit pas toujours.
I mean, my answer is going to pick up many of the threads that Dr. Murabat has just mentioned. We're looking really at a geopolitical balance of power and how it impacts academia, and you can see that it really tilts in favor of the French narrative on many levels, not simply in terms of the institutional support that French research receives versus the support that the Algerian state is able to give, but also there's more professional opportunities in France. There are more publication houses. Most of the important maisons de presse are French held. There's also more media outlets. But this is not to say that there aren't also structural problems in the way Algerians have approached their history. And they've become caught in this game of simply responding to what French scholars and intellectuals are doing. And it's if you simply take one argument and flip it, you're not necessarily resolving it. You're simply denying the other narrative and in a way legitimizing it and continuing. What needs to be done is really a completely different approach. And the Algerians, from everything, all my colleagues, which I thought they're almost narrow-mindedly focused on the 20th century. Very few Algerians work on the pre-colonial centuries or even work on the 19th century. So for the Algerians, the proximity between the War of National Liberation and the present time is very close. There's not that distance yet, and this is what contributes to the guerre de mémoire. One of my favorite philosophers by the name of Raymond Williams once wrote that there's two ways of looking at history. The first way is to not necessarily think that we need to read history as an alternative practice, which is what I think most Algerian scholars are doing. They're basically reading a history that's largely produced by French scholars and simply turning it on its head. But what Raymond Williams is saying is abandon alternative practice and choose what he calls an oppositional practice. And the difference between the two is whereas an alternative practice seeks only to find a different interpretation and then to be left alone with that interpretation, an oppositional practice seeks to find a different interpretation but then to change the whole field with that interpretation. And that's where we come up with this problem about who controls the archives, who's able to publish the most, and who's getting most institutional support. So if you know anyone in the Algerian Department of Education who can start putting money into these kinds of programs, then you may see some shift towards oppositional readings. Yeah. Yes, have a microphone, please. Yeah, and then sir.
Hi, I was wondering, I guess this question is for both the linguist and the writer about Algeria of today, about the young generation. I am a bit worried about the fact that I cannot communicate anymore with the younger people. I was wondering what's happening and how do you see their future? Are they really going towards Middle Eastern kind of an Islamism, or are there some who are successful at really being like us, more or less? I don't know if you understand. Pour Madame Merabet, je me demandais pour la nouvelle génération, les jeunes, est-ce qu'ils ont un avenir comme le nôtre ou est-ce qu'ils s'orientent plus vers le Moyen-Orient et quelle est leur façon de voir, etc. Parce qu'on n'arrive plus à communiquer avec ces jeunes. Je me demandais qu'est-ce que... I mean, this generation gap, comme on dit, ce n'est pas seulement il y a un fossé entre nous et eux, non seulement avec la langue, mais aussi la culture, l'éducation, etc. Je ne sais pas si vous pouvez discuter un peu de ça.
Okay,
merci.
Mais oui, justement, je crois que j'ai abordé tout à l'heure ce problème, c'est qu'ils n'ont ni la culture occidentale, ni la culture arabe. Ils sont complètement paumés. Mais oui, mais non. Et c'est vrai, je ne sais pas, j'aurais aimé vraiment comprendre votre texte. Mais vous savez, j'ai très mal, ça m'est très douloureux d'entendre la langue de ma mère. Oui, mais clochardisée. Clochardisée complètement. Quand je dis clochardisée, c'est que on me dit, vous savez, il y a beaucoup de linguistes qui veulent quand même être optimistes et qui me disent que la langue actuelle, la langue parlée, c'est une langue revitalisée, c'est une langue enrichie, mais non. Parce que le mot arabe qui existe, un mot beau, vraiment très expressif, est remplacé par un français déformé. Mais parfois, vous avez pendant, je ne sais pas, pendant un quart d'heure, vous les écoutez, c'est des mots français clochardisés avec une syntaxe approximative d'arabe dialectal. Je vais vous donner un exemple. Par exemple, il y a des expressions arabes qu'on ne peut pas traduire et qui sont des œuvres d'art. Par exemple, l'expression de Tah min qalbi. Vous la connaissez toutes, c'était Tah min qalbi. C'est à la fois un tableau, un poème, un requiem. Voilà. Eh bien, qu'est-ce que j'ai entendu? Mais ça m'a tombé min qalbi. Alors que, vous savez, c'est brutal, c'est une chute. Tah min qalbi. Cet homme, cet enfant, c'est une femme, elle parlait de son enfant qu'elle a mis au monde. Elle a expulsé de son ventre, elle l'a mis dans son cœur. Et quand elle dit Tah min qalbi, c'est un deuil. Voilà. Et Tah, c'est-à-dire, mais c'est une façon brutale. Tombe C'est pas ça, écoutez. Et je vous assure, ça m'est douloureux. Et qu'on ne me dise pas que c'est un enrichissement, une revitalisation. Un enrichissement, c'est quand on prend un mot qui n'existe pas dans la langue arabe, voilà, et qu'on l'introduit, c'est un enrichissement. Mais là, c'est une trahison, c'est un appauvrissement. On nous enlève notre patrimoine.
Mais qu'est-ce qui explique ça, justement? Pardon, excusez-moi. Qu'est-ce qui explique justement qu'on balance entre plusieurs langages et que, in fine, on délabre tous les langages?
Parce qu'il faut d'abord réformer l'école. Sans ça, on n'arrivera à rien. On est dans une impasse. L'école n'apprend ni le français, ni l'arabe.
Mais quel est l'avenir de ces jeunes?
Mais ils n'ont pas d'avenir pour l'instant. Vraiment, j'ai beau vouloir être... Vous savez, on parle de l'optimisme, de la volonté. C'est vrai, je continue à écrire parce que je reste quand même... Mais on est... Pour l'instant, c'est une impasse. Vous savez, je viens d'écrire un livre qui s'appelle « La salle d'attente ». J'ai l'impression qu'en Algérie, je suis dans une salle d'attente. On est dans une salle d'attente depuis la colonisation. On attend. Pendant la colonisation, j'ai attendu la justice. Pendant la guerre, j'ai attendu l'indépendance. Quand on a eu l'indépendance, on a attendu la révolution. Vous voyez? Voilà. Et c'est toujours, et là actuellement c'est prématuré, tout est prématuré. Moi par exemple, Ben Bella, quand j'ai écrit La femme algérienne, qui a été interdit par Ben Bella, mon premier livre, La femme algérienne, a été interdit par Ben Bella, et alors que quand il me rencontrait dans un lieu public, il venait vers moi, il me serrait la main, il me disait « Fadéla, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec toi, mais c'est prématuré. » C'est prématuré. Voilà. Et bon, Boumediene nous a dit la même chose. Et oui.
Right. Mr. Herbash, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Hamid Kharbash. Je suis médecin. I am a physician. Sorry, I'm mixing up everything. I'm a physician and I'm a member of the Algerian-American Association of the Greater Washington. In a social event a few months ago, I met with a guy and he asked me, he said, "Oh, this accent, where is it from?" I said, "From Algeria." He said, "Oh, Algeria, is it near Brazil?" I want to thank you very much for organizing this conference, which, in fact, I want to thank you for the title, which is, you are wondering whether it was a good title or not. Motif is excellent. Yes, I looked at all three presentations. It is Motif, exactly. I want to thank you because this type of events make me feel that this Brazilian will progressively move Algeria from the Atlantic coast of Brazil and move it progressively. When we organize more and more events, take it to its location, which is North Africa. And I thank you for promoting this part of the world. And we have been doing this during what we have called the first Algerian Cultural Month in the United States, for which I thank the Algerian Embassy of when they helped us organizing this event. Questions. You want to ask Nour Houda a very simple question. Where are we going? That's number one question. Number two question would be for Fadéla Mrabat. She gave you, in fact, part of an answer to that question, which is to tell us briefly about the title La Salle d'Attente. Fadéla, moi j'aimerais que tu nous donnes un petit plus de détails sur le titre de ton livre, La salle d'attente. Tu l'as donné un petit peu, peut-être que tu le feras après. And my question to our friend Osama is, are the winners still writing history? When we look at the beautiful pictorial presentation, which even Fadéla understood when she was looking at the images. Non, je lui disais que même toi, tu as compris la présentation de Osama parce qu'il nous montrait des images. Et les images sont très expressives sur l'évolution de la situation. Et so the colonization has been dealing with the situation by excluding the counterpart, by using the language of the winners. This is why I'm asking you the question: are the winners still writing history in the 2013? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Actually, our case of this mixture of languages in our country, actually we are going nowhere. To be honest with you, we are going nowhere. This distortion is due to many factors together. We have the educational system, of course. We have the influence of the Western cultures on our younger generation, especially. We have also the educated people, the highly educated people who express themselves always in French. When we speak about greetings, how are you? Are you good? This is Arabic. And then we shift completely to the French language. And we should start from here. We should increase the awareness. On doit sensibiliser la jeunesse, but we start with the older generation as a model. We have methodologies. I've learned many methodologies of language maintenance, but we need to increase first the awareness on the younger generation of the value and the importance of our dialect as a symbol of our unity and as a symbol of our national identity. And then we have to apply these methodologies through the educational system, the media, the friendship networks, and just stop talking about the way we talk in the social media with LOL and so on. And other thing is the practice of the ethnic language minorities. We have to speak in our dialect without the French words and without these expressions, borrowed expressions. That's how we start. And then we can have a result.
Oui, tu me demandes de parler de la salle d'attente. La salle d'attente, c'est que j'ai l'impression vraiment que l'Algérie, quand je suis en Algérie, que on est dans une salle d'attente. Une salle d'attente dont tous les sièges seraient occupés et avec les jeunes debout, adossés au mur. Voilà, c'est vraiment une sensation, mais vraiment physique de ça.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Hamed. Yes, we have to answer our question first. Thank you. You're asking me whether winners are still writing the history of Algeria. Yes, I would say they're still imposing their narrative. That doesn't mean that there's only one narrative. And this is what goes back to the question of how institutional and political power can influence which side of the story gets published, gets heard, gets taught in classrooms, which is very important because you have to start very early on. But what's particular about the case of colonial history is that any work on colonial history is using this history in order to legitimize a current political situation, whether it's one side or the other. And what changes your view or your acceptance of one's has a lot to do with which view is much more prevalent, more predominant, more powerful. But the text in itself doesn't have authority, right? I mean, if you read the archives, the historian comes in and interprets the archives. But what gives this interpretation authority? Why is my interpretation of these archives better than this fellow's interpretation of the archives? That's where the power of the institution, of the whole public support system for one particular industry tends to dominate. Because by the time you finish writing your book, someone has to publish it. Someone has to read it and publish it, and they're going to think, how is this book going to be marketed? Who's going to read this book? So you may have all these different obstacles. If your narrative doesn't necessarily resonate with the academia, with marketing issues, with what's possible and not possible. So yes, I think that's one way of looking at the problem, and it's still a question, as you put it, that not the winners, but the people with the money and the power get their side of the story out there much easier, right? Unfortunately. There was one question there. Okay, now suddenly we have lots of questions. So, sir, right?
Question from Madame Mravet. Bienvenue aux États-Unis. Vous êtes considérée comme une légende vivante.
Alors ne dites pas légende vivante, j'ai protesté, j'étais interviewée par un journaliste à Paris, juste avant de venir. Il m'a dit, Fadéla Mravet, vous êtes une légende, vous êtes un mythe. Je dis, ah non, dans la légende, dans le mythe, l'héroïne doit mourir.
Oh.
Et moi, je suis bien vivante.
Ok, d'accord. J'aime bien votre description de la salle d'attente. Ça m'a fait réfléchir et j'ai l'impression qu'on est dans une salle d'attente depuis des millénaires. La géopolitique de l'Algérie étant dans une région un peu spéciale, ce n'est pas centré autour d'une rivière comme l'Égypte ou comme les grandes civilisations. Donc on attend depuis toujours. Est-ce une constante que l'Algérie, on attend toujours? On attend un monde meilleur. On a eu la colonisation, elle est continuelle depuis les Phéniciens plus ou moins étaient moins différentes que la colonisation romaine, mais tout. Et maintenant, c'est là aussi la colonisation mondiale, avec la mondialisation et l'influence aussi du monde arabe, etc. Donc je me demande si faut vivre avec, jouer autour des autres variables qu'on peut contrôler.
Écoute, oui, on nous a colonisés au nom de la civilisation. On a prétendu nous coloniser au nom de la civilisation. Maintenant, le cheval de Troie, c'est la démocratie. On veut revenir dans nos pays au nom de la démocratie. Et qu'est-ce que ça crée? Ça crée la destruction de tous les pays dans lesquels interviennent les puissances militaro-industrielles, qui sont là, on le sait bien, uniquement pour leurs intérêts. Et je ne comprends pas qu'on nous parle de révolution. C'est des pseudo-révolutions. Est-ce que vraiment... Et ce qui est formidable, c'est que, par exemple, dans les pays occidentaux, en France, par exemple, on s'imagine, par exemple, que Hollande fait la guerre au Mali pour apporter la démocratie. On sait très bien qu'il y a en particulier l'uranium à côté. Je ne comprends pas qu'il y ait des gens qui se laissent manipuler, puisque même on trouve des gens en Algérie. Moi, au début, il y a des journalistes qui m'ont révulsé quand ils parlaient de révolution arabe et de printemps. Regardez déjà, toujours l'orientalisme. Printemps, la révolution de Jasmin, comme si la révolution, c'est comme un bouquet de jasmin. On nous fait un cadeau, comme on nous offre un bouquet de jasmin. Une révolution, c'est d'abord une tragédie, et ça ne se fait pas en une saison. Voilà, et je crois que, vous dites, c'est une attente depuis toujours, et je crois qu'on croit au miracle. C'est qu'on croit à la nuit du destin. régulièrement. On est là dehors et on les voit debout, la foule debout, elle attend un miracle.
Suleyma, you have a question?
Two quick questions. First of all, congratulations, your presentation was really good. Nour al-Houda, I was wondering, is there any Darija literature right now, like book published in Darija or even newspapers who would help promote and preserve the language? And for Fadéla Mrabet, bonjour madame, c'est un honneur de vous rencontrer. Je voulais simplement, je me demandais, puisque vous êtes là, profiter un petit peu de savoir un petit peu plus sur la situation des femmes, rapidement un tour d'horizon, si c'est possible. Merci.
Okay, to talk about dialect in a more standardized way, we are not actually really doing much, but we do have one newspaper called An-Nahar, which really writes in English, in standard Arabic, but with the introduction of some dialectal, let's say, sentences. When you read the context, there is some of the Darija, while in the radio they are pushing towards it. Mm.
Et la situation des femmes, écoutez, vous savez, si j'ai eu de gros ennuis lorsque j'ai publié La femme algérienne, ce n'est pas pour mon féminisme. D'ailleurs, je n'aime pas quand on dit Fadéla Mrabet, féministe. Ils ne veulent retenir que ça, parce que